They're more into frequency and flow, and that's that quantum, where there's movement, where our intentions, our desires, our dreams about where we want to be, and that we'll say that's just sent out into the flow, and then somebody comes along and says, you're full of BS, and then that blocks the flow.
So the fact that you're seeing different colors associated with maybe releasing certain emotional states or densities that humanity has been carrying, would you say that is part of the process that's going on here?
It's definitely been through different waves of clarity over the past 8 years. I've talked a lot about the different frequencies that are coming in and what's enhancing and what's pulling away. We kind of see the blue as very clearing, cleansing, bringing in a lot of clarity, and the green is very nurturing and nourishing, like a kind of a Mother Earth nourishing.
Nancy, Rebecca, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
Wow. What am I most excited about? Of course, I'm most excited about the evolution of humanity. That is first and foremost. And excited about humanity really beginning to value themselves and their presence and their importance and their light on earth. And in my own life as a senior citizen, very excited to, and I enjoy feeling so alive, at this time in my life, even during this great time of change where there's high highs and low lows, that we're all coming alive. And then I'm especially excited to talk to you in the generation that you are being a voice for, and sharing in that with you. So
you were sharing with me a little bit earlier that you had the opportunity to read into the psychic space around Generation Z. And that's something I'd like to do a bit later in the conversation, but I just wanted to keep that in mind because I'm really personally curious about that. And also knowing the magic that these generations and the younger generations are bringing. But to begin, I've heard you say before that as a collective, as a humanity, we have to keep the end game in mind, which are these next 3 years.
Yeah.
What is that end game that we should be putting into the forefront for what's coming in the next 3, maybe less than so years?
Yeah. So, thanks. It's a great question. And one of the examples that I like to give is if you're running a marathon, for example, and you don't even know how to walk to the corner, you struggle to walk to the corner stop sign and back. And that it takes that end game of, that dream, that desire that you have to run a marathon, or join the Ironman competition where you're bicycling and you're swimming. That you set those little goals along the way. And some days it's going to be fantastic. And other days you're going to really question why you ever decided to do it. What is the value in it all? Well, it's the same for humanity that came to Earth at this time. We came here knowing that as spirit, that it was going to be a rapid time of development, and spirit's always showing me, it's like, we're up there, and in the spirit world, it's like, me, pick me, I want to go, and it's like we're lining up at the elevators, to come down and be here at this time. And it's, and then it's really different in the human body, and translating those frequencies through our human body, it might not feel so good. And then to see the I'm calling this time the great thaw, the great purge, where everything around us is just purging, this old, archaic energy. We can get lost in that. And it's like right now, what even the blue light beings, it's like, we all need to remember to stay in our lane. What is our lane? And sometimes we can get caught up in what somebody else's lane is, but what's the end game? Like if I keep getting caught up in if I take all these detours in life, I'm not remembering the end game of where I need to be. And so the end game in this next 3 years is probably, well, let me just do a little commercial step aside here, is that there's not one single human on the face of the planet that will ever be able to define what's happening on the earth right now. So having said that, but this feeling, this sense that I have that these next 3 years, it's going to probably feel like it's the most accelerated time in our life, because we're building our light body. And that may not be as comfortable or as pleasant, because we're needing to shift from that physical human 3D focus to other dimensions, other levels, becoming multidimensional beings. And that sounds pretty on a resume, but the reality is, it can be tough, like you're planning that marathon, or you're going to climb Mount Everest, even no matter how much you prepare, you're running out of oxygen, your body's, contracting. And so that's what I'm saying about, we want to be here. We want to be awakened. We want to be a part of the collective. We are stronger together than we ever have been apart. And if to get there, we need to stay focused. And we need to remember that, even if that means Post-it notes all over the house. Yep.
And before we break down what it really does mean to be, creating and manifesting these light bodies, I know that you've also received this maybe vision or information around a sleeping dragon. And I'm really curious to know what that has meant for you and how you've sort of dealt with what that means for us, a sleeping dragon.
Yeah. So it will often, I will hear, well, first of all, there's a lot of dragons coming in from other dimensions. I mean, they are very much making their beautiful presence known here and their frequency known here on Earth. And those who are open to the dragon frequency are already experiencing that. But what I will often hear is, don't wake the sleeping dragon. And what that represents is, don't open to your power. Don't, and this is like the body speaking, or the fear speaking, or people are like, just stay small and just listen up, and don't make trouble. And that dragon energy is just ripe and ready to just really rise up, spread its wings, and just really take charge of their life. And so often as a clairvoyant, I will see this sleeping dragon in the solar plexus, but now and that would have been even 15 years ago, I could see the sleeping dragon in the solar plexus. But now it's either, and some people, I don't see it there anymore because they have allowed that dragon of themselves to come awake. But that's exactly, it's like our bodies are afraid. If you wake up, something bad's going to happen. If you are conscious, you may not be satisfied with, you know, with the lunch you've been served, you know, the platter of food that's on the table. You may not be satisfied with that. And if you're not satisfied with that, then life's going to change. And your body loves for things to stay the same. It doesn't want to change. And so you have to, it doesn't want to get up in the morning and go run that 10 kilometers. You know, it doesn't want to get up in the morning and get in that cold water to swim so many miles. So it requires our consciousness, on our spirit, to work with our body. And I promise you, you're going to feel really good if you do it, you know. And it's interesting. When I was thinking about coming on this call with you, I did ask the blue celestial beings, and they were like, talk about the inner voice, talk about the inner voice. And, you know, the inner voice located in the fifth chakra, and it is your place of your body spirit communication. And that needs to come online in a big way. We need to start working with our body. We will only develop to a certain point without taking our body with us. And so that sleeping dragon is kind of like that. It's our body. It's like, no, don't wake it up. Don't wake it up. What if I can't manage it? What if I can't control my power? You know, what if I breathe fire, you know, and set boundaries with someone? You know, I might get hit, you know. So that's really going on in a big way throughout all of humanity right now.
You related that to the solar plexus, and I know that's very connected with, you know, our navel, and you've been receiving also this mystical quality of the navel in our body, but also in our energetic body. I know you've been also working with and been around these Taoist masters as well. So the navel, what is the mystical quality that is also helping us work through these layers of not being afraid to awaken the sleeping dragon?
Well, in the navel, so in that area is called the Dantian. And have you heard of that before?
A meridian, right? It's an energy point.
It is like a little, it is an invisible structure, but it is about the size of, I would say, of a small chicken egg. And it's when it's healthy and glowing in the navel, it's red, it's warm, it's radiant, like a hot coal in a fire. That's what it should look like. And to be able to get that, you're either doing Tai Chi, Qigong, you're doing yoga, you're going for walks, you're going for runs, you're dancing, you want to do physical things to build up the fire in the belly. And so from that mystical aspect of that, it draws upon all the kind of like the consciousness, but mostly it has to do with the body, you know, drawing it up from the earth, drawing it from the cosmos. But it adds this fuel, or the energy to the body. And right now, in most of society, we're very sedentary. You know, whether we're streaming, you know, Netflix, or, you know, playing video games for hours at a time, then that fire in the belly goes out. It gets cold, it gets damp, and people can really feel that, how cold it can be to the touch. And so through meditation, through pranic breathing, you know, really breathing deeply into the belly, that you can kind of imagine blowing on that coal and making it nice and strong. And it really feeds what I call, it's like this triangle. I'm showing this. This area is my liver, and this area is my spleen. And on each side, there's chakras there. So you've got the navel, and then it goes up to the liver and the spleen. So it creates this triangle. So it fuels this energy there. And so I'm always interested because especially the spleen chakra, I call it the caregiver chakra. And it can get depleted. It needs to be refueled by that navel area. And it gets depleted when we have overcare and concern for others. And it gets depleted. We're giving of our own energy to someone else, and it can get depleted. And then, of course, the liver contains the highest level of chi, of energy, of any organ in the body. And yet we've got it so suppressed because we feel, and I'm speaking in generalities, but I have worked with the human energy field for 30 years. It's like we've suppressed it because, especially spiritual people, because we want to be peaceful, loving, oming, sitting, intuitive, absorbing the feminine divine, but it requires the masculine divine. It requires the fire in the belly. It requires the masculine divine is movement, and so it requires all that. So yeah, the body, that's part of the light body. Like we have to get it ready to be able to take in high octane fuel, and that's not happening if we're being really sedentary. So yeah, so that's all part of the, I would say the dragon, don't wake the sleeping dragon. We've been asleep for a long time, and the body's like, stay asleep, stay asleep. And you want to get the body ready to know it's really okay to wake up. It's better than okay, and life's going to be really fantastic. But our bodies really don't trust us much right now.
And I'm really on Nancy Rebecca brand today, as I have these blue lights around me in my studio. And I know how significant that blue light frequency. You brought up briefly the blue celestial beings that you work with. And I'd love to know, in what ways is this blue light that you've perceived in the last few years assisting us to get prepared for all of these shifts and transformations that we are going through as a collective, as an evolutionary process for the earth and for ourselves as a species. In what ways is it helping and assisting us right now?
It's pretty straightforward. The message has always been the same. So when the celestial beings of light that I now know are Syrian, I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about star beings, and but I now know them as kind of Spock-like. They're very reality-based. And that was one of the first things that they wanted me to do, was to create free guided meditations of blue light to help people to let this blue light flow through their energy field. And they were, and they still say to this day, during this grand awakening on the earth, as we are all becoming conscious of our divinity, that the blue light would really assist with that. And the way that it assists is with the frequency of dissolving all illusions, and the illusions in the world, illusions within ourselves, enhancing truth, helping us to remember who we truly are and why we are truly here. And then this other piece, sometimes, Emilio, to be honest, I think I can grab it. And then other times, I don't think I get it at all. And it's this piece about justice, that to bring clarity to what's truly right and what's truly wrong. And sometimes it doesn't feel like justice is being served in the world. And I think that's where I make that kind of linear brain connection at the human level. Like, where's the justice piece? You've been talking about, illusions and truth, and that seems to be on board, but where's the justice being served, right and wrong? And so they do at times need to illuminate for me when we feel frustrated at the injustices. That's the sign that we are starting to clearly see this is right and this is very wrong. And we are getting there. We're getting there.
And have you tuned in with these blue celestial Syrian beings around, maybe the metaphysical or even quantum, because they've worked a lot into the quantum and the quantum physics, especially the quantum or metaphysical perspectives of what is that right or wrong in terms of justice and morality. And that's where we're getting into more like maybe human imposed judgments on things and on how things unfold in our actions. Have they revealed anything around that?
Yeah, and this is that sense where I'm like, sometimes I think I've got it and sometimes I don't, but they're more into frequency and flow. And that's that quantum, where there's movement, where our intentions, our desires, our dreams about where we want to be, and that will say that's just sent out into the flow. And then somebody comes along and says, you're full of BS, and then that blocks the flow. That's not okay. It's like that everybody has a right to be in the flow, whatever that flow means, for them. And they're very much like, there's 12 beings that visit with me, and it can be pretty random, although I see them several times a month, but there's only one being that communicates to me, but they all have extremely different personalities, and you can feel it goes kind of beyond benevolence. It's like you be you and I'll be me. Like, you can just feel like this love, even though you can tell all their different kind of personality frequencies are very different. And that's where we're going on Earth. And that's clearly not going to happen overnight. But we are getting there. And I'm already sensing the frequency of kindness. I'm seeing it in people's eyes. I don't know if you remember, but it seemed like during the pandemic, we just stopped making eye contact with each other. But now it seems like that's coming back again. But they're really about flow and about frequency. And they often will talk about a tapestry of all the frequencies that we create, this beautiful tapestry together. And some of those threads can be very threadbare and broken and torn. And it's like, we're just kind of pulling those out and weaving in healthier threads again. So they communicate in this kind of metaphoric way that's at a very high frequency. But I feel like, because I'm a very kind of realist, practical, psychic clairvoyant, it's like, so what does that mean for humanity? And it's like little nudges, we're getting there. And they're very clear. Everybody's getting there. They will express often how they're not concerned about humanity at all. And yet here we are sitting in our stuff, very concerned. And I don't know if you've ever tuned into that, Emilio, but there are days where I think I can sit in that truth. And then there's other days where, I'm human and it's not so easy to sit in that truth.
Our world is shifting faster than ever, and it's so easy to feel small in the middle of all of this. Imagine being part of a movement, a tribe that is not just talking about the change, but actually living it. That's why I created the Deep Dive, a living spiritual ecosystem where every single day we go on a journey to remembering our most authentic self. Our members have joined from all walks of their awakening, and it's been such a blessing to witness all of the soul relationships that are already forming. As a community, we start every day with simple, powerful activities, and we're beginning to start envisioning the kind of world that we want to experience. This is way more than exclusive content or just another spiritual Netflix. This is about integration and leaving behind a legacy. If you're ready to move beyond knowing into becoming, then visit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now to learn more. I'd be honored to co-create history with you. I've heard you say before that you'd really love to do deep dives on what benevolence means. And especially now we're having a lot of questions around these galactic beings or things that are happening even in mainstream news, such as the Three-Eye Atlas, that is this interstellar object, the third one ever detected, hurling through space, going to pass near Earth in December 19th.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are asking, is this a benevolent energy? Is this a malevolent force? What is the meaning? And I'd love to do a little mini deep dive with you on benevolence, around star beings, around intelligences that we might not understand on an intellectual level, but know deep down intuitively that it's something else.
Well, I was very curious. I still am very curious about the Three-Eye Atlas. Because if it comes to my consciousness and it just starts rotating, like on Spotify, and you just, or keep playing the same record over and over again, then I know that there's something really important there. And that hasn't gone away. So I did sit in meditation, and I did tune into the frequency of it. And then I actually traveled there in my astral body, and I actually touched it, and it's very much feels like a rock. It's very much feels like a rock, and yet it feels it like it has an aliveness to it. So as I traveled there, and I know this is going to sound crazy to people, but
not for our people.
Okay.
we're the crazies out here.
And so I thought, okay, so if this is a spaceship, there should be people here. There should be extraterrestrials here, other beings. And so then I moved into the rock, and I moved in deeper and deeper. I just stayed in one spot. I didn't explore it for a long time because I am in another frequency dimension, and I do know that I need to bring that and integrate that into my body. So I'm always very conscious of how much time I'm spending out there. But I moved in, and then I just sat quietly, and it was like, yeah, there's nothing here but me. I just was not feeling anything alive like extraterrestrial beings that you might suspect in a spaceship. However, what I could experience was a very, very high level of intelligence. And it felt to me that this rock, I'll call it this rock, it's not at the mercy of the gravitational pull of all the planets. The sense that I have, it
already changed course.
Pardon?
On its own. It already changed course on its own.
Right. So when I did all this was about a month ago, but it was like, oh, there's definitely some higher intelligence that is in charge of this. Now, I was listening, I don't know if his name is Stephen Burns or...
Yeah, Stefan.
Yes, Stefan. I listened because a lot of people are like, you have to listen to him. And I just think he's such a great resource. for material, because he can go in so many different directions. But I loved it. He said something about, well, in the higher dimensions, it's a spaceship, and as you get closer to 3D, it's a rock. So I didn't explore it in that way, Emilio. I think, that would require another little trip there. But I believe that. I believe it could highly be true.
Yeah, take me with you on that next trip. We'll explore it together. But one thing I did hear you say around that was that it was also carrying maybe surges of frequency that might be beneficial to
Yes.
our evolution as well.
Yes, very much so. And it's being amplified. So it's being amplified by the sun. It's being amplified by Mars. It's being amplified by our solar system. And the frequency is coming to the earth. So what I've been encouraging my own students to do is, I'm not sure when it's going behind the sun. I haven't had a chance to look at those dates again. For some reason, I thought it was October, but maybe it could be November. But it will go behind the sun. I'm expecting an absence of sensation. Like, we may not know we're being influenced by 3I Atlas, but the moment it goes behind the sun, we're going to then feel the absence of it. And then, because I like to teach through contrast. So then when it comes out from behind the sun again, they should be able to feel the frequency again. So yeah, we'll have to check out those dates.
And I briefly use the term surge, and that's also a term that you've been using around the blue light, that it comes in surges as well. Like, it was almost like an injection, like a wave.
Yeah.
And why do you feel that is the pattern of how that light comes in?
Yeah. Well, right. So it did in the beginning. The very first surge that happened in November of 2019, it was like a blue piercing light through the pyramid in Xi'an, China, that it was almost like if you have like a black granite of pain and suffering in the earth. And it was like this dark kind of lapis color that had to pierce that black granite, and it exploded. It shattered. And it needed that type of laser type focus for that to happen. When it came back in again in November of 2021, and it came through the pyramid outside of Mexico City and Teotihuacan, there wasn't as this black granite, but a lot of it was like liquefied black. There were some hard places, so the laser wasn't as intense. And then by the time we got to 2023 in November, it came through the 3 different mesas in Hopi Land in Arizona. And so it was almost like the beams were broader. What's happening right now is that it's like a misty blue fog that's probably, I don't know, maybe 30 miles thick, and it's just completely covering most of the planet. However, there's a space over Eastern Europe and part of Russia and part of China where it's emerald green. And I was really curious about that. I thought, what is that? And so it's helping, again, it's like subcategories of illusions, subcategories of eliminating what we hold to be a truth, but it may be a lie, and part of it's denial and numbness. So it's really preparing us for December. When I say it can sound like this blue light is an intelligence.
Yeah.
But again, I kind of like the comet or 3I Atlas. There's a higher intelligence that's guiding it and assisting it. And I have to say, there are the blue light beings. but they say we are guiding it and directing it. Humanity is with its higher states of consciousness. What do you think about that?
That surge that is going on now compared to the early ones where it was just like a piercing in and shattering, it almost feels like a sort of plasma, like a fourth state of
Very
matter.
much. Yeah, full of light codes. Yep.
Full of light codes. And I'm letting my, I guess, child play a little bit, and he's thinking about the Inside Out movies where, you have these characters associated with different emotions, but each of the characters is a different color. So the fact that you're seeing different colors associated with maybe releasing certain emotional states or densities that humanity has been carrying, would you say that is part of the process that's going on here?
It's definitely been through waves of clarity over the past 8 years. So, I've talked a lot about the different frequencies that are coming in and what's enhancing and what's pulling away. The emerald green is, we kind of see the blue as very clearing, cleansing, bringing in a lot of clarity. And the green is very nurturing and nourishing, like a kind of a Mother Earth nourishing, as we kind of strip away. Not, I would say we don't do it consciously until we know it's available consciously, and then we can start to clear, the denial and the numbness. That's the big thing. We've all been a bit shocky. And so, yes, those frequencies are kind of dialed in and part of the plan. And it's almost like, you're baking a cake. You've got the different ingredients and they have to go in. The wet stay with the wet and the dry stay with the dry. And you've got to mix and blend them so much, and the oven's got to be just right. So I just imagine, at this high level of consciousness, that type of, that helps me to understand it, that there are certain ingredients that have to happen in a certain way. So right now, that denial and that numbness and that shockiness that's in our field, it's a coping mechanism. It's helping us to deal with the atrocities that are happening in the world. And so what's going to happen if those dissolve? Like, how are we going to handle the atrocities? And I think part of it is we're not going to handle it. We're going to feel it, viscerally, and then action, Yeah.
Once the shield comes off, there's no other option than just to look at it and take it in.
Yeah.
And into your emotional body to let it process. And then it can be, in a way, dissolved or released.
Yes.
But it has to be felt first. So I love that you brought that up. And another thing that you were saying there was this might be guided from the higher self of humanity, this light surge that is coming in. A question I did have for you was around, how much of our personal consent is involved in allowing this light to penetrate our own field. But if it's being guided from the higher self, then that's sort of where it gets, a little bit complex in the answer to that question, I'm sure.
Yeah. We've really, as humanity, we have really invested a lot of years in learning how to set boundaries, and it's our right to set boundaries, and it's our right to have, sovereignty over this human construct, and where people have crossed that. And so, yes. And it's my sense we've done a great job in learning our lessons around that. But I do remember someone in a comment section, I don't give permission for the blue light to come into my aura. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's right. And so I went and I asked the blue beings of light, you know, what can you say about this? Like, do people have a right to say no? And it's like, do you? And their answer was very clear and straightforward. You know, do you have the right to tell oxygen it can't fill your lungs? Do you have the right to tell the rain it can't soak your clothes when you're standing in the middle of the street? It's that natural. This isn't, yeah, it's very natural. It's a natural part of our process, and just kind of like growing older, and we're all being touched by it. And we all are contributing to it at what I call the higher soul level.
I'm really curious to maybe travel into the ancient past. If you've heard of any cultures or civilizations that have also talked about this blue light, because I'm sure if, we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years,
Yeah.
this might not be the first time. If it's as
No.
natural as rain,
Yeah.
as natural as oxygen, has this blue light been around in other time periods?
Yeah, if you just think about Hinduism, for example, and all their ascended being, they're all blue. They're blue-skinned people. And, Krishna and Shiva, and, they're all blue. And so, yes, blue's been around for a very long time. Often when we think about Lemurian and those advanced cultures, they worked a lot with blue and silvers, and whites were energies that they worked with a lot. There was something else that was coming up around that, and I've totally lost it. But we do have a rainbow of frequencies. And this, even when I asked the Syrians, I'm like, oh, you're blue. And they were like, well, yeah, some of us are, most of us are, but Lyrans can be blue, Pleiadians can be blue, Arcturians can be blue. And so they're like, do you get dressed and do you go through your closet and decide what color you want to wear today? We're very much the same. And if they are devoted, if their mission is to dissolve illusion, enhance truth, and bring through the right and wrong of justice, that's their mission. It's like Jesus's mission is love, and it's all about love and expressing love. And it's that Christ frequency is that very alchemical, golden, liquid lusciousness. And there are going to be star beings that want to work with that frequency of love and gold. A lot of Lyrans come through as gold and as silver, which is a very supreme, high level. You have the diamond ones that are on the other side of the galaxy. So we do have all of these colors, and as humans, we like to work with a lot of different colors as well. It's just that the blue, they just say you don't have to stay blue all the time, but blue can help you dissolve illusions and enhance truth when you feel stuck.
It's like the core purpose of that frequency.
Yeah, it's
illusion and truth.
Yes, yeah.
And justice, if we ever get to understand
that
one.
Get there the way we'd like
to. I'd love for a moment to talk about the intersection of physiology and energy, of matter and ether, because I know as a registered nurse, you worked a lot with the physiology of the human body, and now you're working a lot with the human energy field. And I want to know, in your perspective, how those sort of feed off each other, influence and affect each other. When we create these new light bodies, how would that influence the physiology, the DNA, the cellular structure of the body, and vice versa as well?
Yeah. Well, my senses be helpful for me to kind of go back to where my beliefs were. So when I had the out-of-body experience and I'm standing next to my body that's, laying in the bed, And I always say when I touched my body, it felt as inanimate as my car in my garage. So if I went out to the car and I'm touching the car as I'm making my way to the door, my body without my soul in it, it feels very mechanical, just it doesn't have anything, going for it unless you get behind the wheel of that car as spirit and you're driving it. I have a technique I call who's driving your car, because it can feel that way. So I used to believe that the body was just could be easily just kind of tossed away, that the true value was our soul, our spirit. Fast forward 30 years to where we are now, I have grown to know, and probably more so as the blue beings of light have been sharing about the quantum field, is that our human body is an ascended master. So I would not have believed that before. I wouldn't have believed, like I just talked to it, like, can you, behave? Can you get up and go for a walk? Where it's like there's a kind of an honoring that I do now, a high level of respect for the body. So the body is also a quantum field. It's just vibrates slower so that it can create matter. It can bring in a solid form. And so when I was working with the human body, I could see how it was influenced with my clairvoyance. I could add energy to the field and their illness would transform. They would feel better, whether it was physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. And now what's happening is when it comes to creating the light body, it's like we do need to have more respect for our human body, and we I was going to say, we need to have a desire to want to work with our human body. And right now, people still get pretty frustrated. I can't see very well. My lungs are having an asthma attack. Like I ache all over, like feeling like you got a bad model car, a lemon car, when in actuality, it's just the memories that it holds, and the memories we store in our body is what's causing our illness and our pain. So we got some shoveling to do. Yeah.
And even beyond that, I know like the health space is very, very into this aspect of things, but the environmental toxins that we were never normally exposed to, or the radiation and all these other things that might influence the original blueprint of the human body. But it also seems that on a frequency level, we are upgrading to be able to handle and manage these new environmental things that were never part of nature's original blueprint before, all man created.
Yeah. And it's the concept that we could upgrade our field and that we can heal that quickly is still kind of a foreign concept for a lot of people of my generation, for sure. And, but it's even my students when I'm working with them, and they're just like, I just came in, I just had this horrible headache, and then I just did this, used one of the techniques you teach, and then my headache's gone. How's that possible? Well, it's learning how to manage the human energy field. That's what we're learning to do. And we're going through that pretty rapidly. But here's the thing, Emilio. It's not like I have to hand you a gigantic anatomy and physiology book and you've got to study it, because our DNA is so rapidly coming online that the concepts, you don't even have to think about them. Like all of a sudden you're going to know it. You're just going to know what to do. You're just going to know the choice you need to make. Your DNA that's coming online is going to be able to shift those stuck places. So we're trying to imagine what 3 years from now is going to look like, and it's just not possible because we don't have the full DNA activation for us to know that. It's kind of like being a kindergartner and you're trying to imagine what college is going to be like when you get there. So it's such an exciting time. And I cannot wait for the DNA to come. It's already coming online, so, but it's like all of a sudden you have this ability to paint or, play a musical instrument or write poetry, or now you want to get on a stage and start performing, or suddenly you feel like, my hands are activated and they're hot and I think I need to heal something, and so, but our mind still wants to say, nope, you're not a healer, you're not an artist, you're not a musician, you're not this. So we got to play with this thing up here and, let our neuroplasticity become more elastic and expansive.
Yeah. And I do, in a way, feel that we can start imagining at least some potentials, because you brought up the word ascended master. And I feel like if humanity is upgrading in its DNA, we're going from a 2-strand to a multi-strand, then there have already been humans that have walked that door. And you look at the ascended masters that we know of more commonly, like a Yeshua or a Mary Magdalene, or all these other, you've been in the spaces with Taoist masters. So what have you seen in terms of those possibilities for an individual? Maybe as a collective, it's harder to imagine the possibilities there because we work better than we are apart, as you said in the beginning. But what have you seen maybe in individuals that have walked that door and made those upgrades already? Even the star beings, I think they're a great example.
Yeah, well, no, and I am thinking about humans, on this human plane. There's somebody you should interview. I don't know if he would ever come on, but he's, a holy man in Nepal. And he can manifest things out of his hands. He has no limitation to do that. He can manifest things. And initially, I met him.
Tell him I need the new iPhone, please.
Exactly. He was 19 years old when I met him, and he's 40 now, so we've been good friends for a long time. But he said at first he thought, people could see that he could create things and produce them, that they would become spiritual, and that's just not true. They just would want to see him produce something else. And I remember he had converted his bedroom into a temple, and he slept in the hallway from a very young age. I remember going into his temple, and he had all these statues, of course, of Hindu statues, and I said, why do you put that like red powder on top of that? Why do you put that yellow, looks like okra, whatever powder? Why do you put this powder on top of the statues? And he said, oh, Mom, you misunderstand. I don't put that powder. That powder comes out of the statue. It just grows out of the statue. It comes from the cosmos. And even the pictures all on his walls, it's just this gray powder that just manifests. And so he was able to share a lot of things that he's able to do. And there was, when I was in New Mexico, and I had the honor to travel with the Canancito tribe to their sacred land, and there was a point where we were going to these sacred stones where you can go into the stones and go to the other side and see your loved ones. And in that, they would tie a rope around so that when you went into the stone, that they could pull you back out again, because once you go over there, you would want to stay there. We didn't actually get to experience that because a huge thunderstorm happened. And And so that halted everything. Like, we needed to head back. But on that land, I did have this, I've had fantastical experiences, but I just can't kind of pull them off the top of my head. But this one, the Canancito tribe said you can't wear red because it represents war, and all cultures are different. You know, red is very holy for other cultures. And they said, and don't take any jewelry on this sacred land because the little people love the shiny things. Well, you know, I
The
had
little
driven from
people.
Washington State to New Mexico. I had nowhere to put my jewelry. And so here I'm in a tent, you know, it's got the little pocket there. So I take off all my jewelry, I put it in a bandana, I fold it, I put it in a little bag, and then put the bag inside a baggie, and then I put it in a little pouch next to my head, sewn into the tent, and then zipped it up. And I was just about ready to fall asleep about 30 minutes later, and I heard the pitter-patter of little feet, like just the way it sounded like the little feet could have been, you know, like 3-4 inches. And they were running around the tent. And this is on the Holy Land. And they're running around the tent faster and faster and faster. Well, I fell asleep. Like, I just went out cold. Well, when I woke up the next day, the whole pouch was still there. The bandana was there, but all my jewelry was gone.
No way.
And I just had to laugh because I thought I was so clever. But this is what happens, you know, in these other dimensions so easily. But what I will say is, I did get out of the tent and I started walking. They didn't take it. They just scattered it all around in the tall grasses around me, and I was able to get it all back. But there's so much, you know, and with the Taoist masters, you know, they're capable of doing all sorts of things. So there was one Taoist master that brought in a lot of black dragons to attack me. Wanted
What?
to see what my abilities were.
A test, an initiation.
And I was so shocked. I mean, I started battling back as I'm sitting here with my cup of tea. And I started battling back, but I was so upset that this master was not being very nice, not being very hospitable. And because of my delay, because I was so shocked, you know, yep, my energy field went through it. But then I had another Taoist master that I went to see, and we were talking about the blue beings of light, and I had seen about 10 of them, and they all told me, you have to get your own information, which is very Taoist from what I understand. Until I got to the last one, and then his entire physical body disappeared, and he became very blue and very tall, and I was like, oh, you're a star being. And I said this in my head, and he
Wow.
picked it up, and he
Chills.
smiled because I could see it. And then he and I started telepathically communicating. I was so excited to finally see someone and meet someone who knew what I was talking about. And the interpreter said, he said, you've come all this way. Are you going to ever say anything? And I'm like, oh, we're actually having a full-on conversation. We don't need an interpreter. And then the interpreter did share that with him. And then he smiled again because he knew that not only could I see he was a star being, but I could also communicate with him, even though I didn't speak Chinese and he didn't speak English.
And I believe that's the moment where that master told you that you were a second degree clairvoyant.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
did that mean to you?
Well, it didn't mean much, but when he said, he knew I had been meeting masters throughout China, and I'd been meeting a lot of beautiful, wonderful people, and no matter what the political arena is around that, it is an incredible country, and so and the quite sacred lands. So, but he said your abilities are more than 98% of all of our Taoist masters in all of China. And I was just like, I don't even know what that means.
Bring on the black dragon.
I think if I'd known that ahead of time, I would have probably felt a little more confident and going into battle like the Game of Thrones or something. But once in a while, I have to remind myself of that when I'm feeling insecure, or, if people are like, you're a whack job, it's your imagination, I can remember him saying, don't lose your stuff. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the prize. And he said, what you are getting is very, very, very true, and stick with it. So
what was the prize?
Well, the prize is consciousness and growing, but it was the prophecy, where the prophecy was that, and still is, that billions of people on the planet are awakening, and awakening rapidly, and that the blue light and the blue beings of light are here, to assist us. And that was then, and that has been, I was told by several Chinese people that is in an actual book that was printed, first published 1,500 years ago. But what it's done for me now, from him saying that, is if they share with me something that I consider far-fetched, I have to remember I'm hearing them right. I'm hearing them right. And even if it doesn't line up with what anybody else is saying, I'm hearing them right.
And also, I think that compilation of stories that you just shared with us, thank you again, is that right now when we imagine the new human, we shouldn't really be thinking so futuristic, as in like, oh, this is a human that's in the future. This has already been an aspect of us for centuries. Like, I get the honor of, coming from culture in Colombia, hearing stories of also the indigenous tribes and the Kogi people, and the way that they train their mamos, which is the head of, their shaman of the tribe.
And the Buddhist spear came from there.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It's in my house. No, I'm just kidding. It's in Mexico. Some dude stole it.
I know. I loved it that he carried it through, security.
The baggage claim, Jaime. But yeah, what I was trying to say there was, like, already, this is an ancient way. It doesn't even feel that futuristic. It's almost like we're bridging. And you made a whole video about time, and how we're experiencing these time jumps and interdimensional, accelerations. What is that about in this context of our evolution?
Well, what happens is when you shift your consciousness, and everybody can do it. I'd like to say it's got a lot of special steps you have to do, but it isn't. It's just, we're all capable. It's like shifting. Oh, let me feel what the 16th dimension feels like. And so you just shift. You just make that shift. The higher the dimension, the slower time goes. And in some aspects, it's like time stops. So, like, for example, I would go to 3-Eye Atlas, and I would travel in my astral body there, and it may feel like I've been there for 20 or 30 minutes, and then I come back to the 3D world, and I've only been gone 3 minutes. So So as our frequency is going up, time is really going to slow down, which is very lovely because so many things are happening so fast. So like this morning, getting ready for my talk, and I'd look at the clock and I'm like, oh, wow, I guess I better get in the shower. And then I look at the clock again after my shower and it's like the same time. And so I was grateful
Very
because
ecologically conscious, Nancy. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
because it's like
10-second showers. I'm
I
loving
know
it.
I have time is on my side this morning, and so yeah, so we are making those leaps. I do feel like we've been doing a gradual climb, but now I feel like we're making some pretty big leaps. Yeah.
And if
Like
time,
sudden leaps, yeah.
like jumps.
Like jumps to where all of a sudden everything looks it just looks different, and you don't know why it looks different, but it looks different, and you can't go back to seeing things the way that you saw things.
Yeah. What's interesting is, when I go on my, Joe Dispenza retreats, or I go to Egypt or wherever it is, linearly, I was there for 10 days. But at the end of the 10 days, I feel like I've been there for years. Like, I'm not even joking. And I heard you say something similar around Egypt's frequency, where you said that days felt like weeks. And if you just said that at higher dimensions, time slows down, then can we be also operating in higher dimensions while we're here in the physical plane, which is why time is feeling different while we're at certain spots or certain portals of energy that we go through?
We are actually functioning, humans are actually functioning on multiple dimensions at the same time. So we do know that ascended masters have that multidimensionality about them. The blue beings of light, really, you can feel all of their multiple dimensional frequencies in harmony with each other. For us, it's like we are also functioning in a multidimensional world, but we are not conscious of it yet. And that's what we're growing in. We're growing in that consciousness. And for us to go from the third dimension to the fourth dimension, it's like, okay, there's that door there. Let's unlock. Let's go down the hall through that other door and that other door to get to the fourth dimension, or the fifth, or the 16th, or the 100th. For us, it's a little clunkier, if I can put it that way. It's a little kind of start and stop-ish kind of thing. But we will get to a place where it'll be blended, so that blended in a harmonious way. That's where we're moving towards. So we do experience time, or we'll experience something literally missing. You just literally put your keys there. This is happening so often, it's not even questionable anymore. Have you
The
had
little
that happen to you?
people, the little people,
Well, the little people are, yeah.
they don't like keys. They like the Cartier. They don't like.
Whoever is moving it. But my sense is that you put your keys down in the third dimensional realm, and then you shifted to a 12th dimensional realm where the keys you can't see the matter. It doesn't exist. And then you shift back, and then they're there. So it isn't like they disappeared somewhere. You disappeared somewhere.
Wow. And these are experiences that more of us are having, with especially like Mandela effects.
Definitely have, yeah.
What's a collective Mandela effect that you've tuned into recently?
Can you add a few more descriptors to that? Because you're talking about the Mandela effect.
Yeah, like events that parts of a population will remember it differently, and other parts will remember it also in a different way completely.
Okay. So the Syrians, the blue Syrians, have explained to me that part of what we're going to be experiencing. So in the three-dimensional world, we view things as it's like a flat 2D image. It's just this picture. It's static. It's just, this is the way it is, and there's no other way. And what the blue beings are telling me is that we're moving to a state where every decision we make, every way we view the world, we are going to start seeing 12 different perspectives at the same time. And so let's say you have something you're trying to create in your life and you can only see it in one way, but there's more sides to every story, is what they keep telling me. And they keep saying things like, "What, Nancy, what's the story behind the story? What's the story behind that story?" And it usually leads to very ancient, revealing very ancient teachings where, and so if you have 12 sides, you can sit and go, okay, I'm looking at, this is the only way this job's going to work for me. I'm just going to have to quit because I just can't stand one more second of this. And then the blue beings of light would say, all right, what's the second view? What's the third view? What's the fourth view? What's the fifth view? And that at first it's going to be clunky, right? It's like, oh man, I have to really work at this. But then eventually you'll be able to see all 12 outcomes at the same time. And they will all be beautiful, as we move. But that might be 5 or 10 years down the way.
Well, it's starting to happen too, like, and you can see it in like arguments that people are having where an old argument might have been, I'm seeing this perspective, you're seeing that perspective, and then we're just going at each other ad infinitum, or however you pronounce that. And then now, arguments can be resolved much quicker with people because we can see their perspective, we can see ours, we can see the third one, we can see the other one.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, like it's not
we
us against each
right.
other.
We can all be right. Yeah, exactly. And that's that quantum flow that the celestial beings talk about. It's like, don't stop the flow, to try to get me on your side. It's just let me flow, And so we are definitely moving in that direction. And that I feel like we're moving sooner than later. Yeah, we're already experiencing. Have you noticed that in having conversations? Yeah, that people are much more open to your opinion and your view and almost enjoy seeing the perspective.
Yeah. We talked about our UFO encounters off air, and it's like 5-10 years ago, people would have been like, you just saw a balloon, like just get out of here. And then now people are like, okay, go about my day. And it's like nothing.
Yeah. Are you ordering French toast? It's like, I just told you, I just saw a UFO up close. What's the fun in that, when I finally saw it? So,
and I promised we'd get back to this Generation Z, my generation in that sense. What did you read into psychically around the younger generation that is here?
So I'm going to read from my notes. So telepathically, first of all, in that Generation Z, is that what you're calling it?
Z for our Europeans out there.
Okay. That your telepathy is, you came in, you were born with your telepathy full online. And what I mean by that is that you already from right out that first breath were already telepathically, even in the womb, telepathically communicating with your parents, communicating with your environment. And then, as you're growing, you're still communicating with your mates. And so they really, the blue beings were really talking about this because the telepathy in your generation is so online, it can create a lot of frustration because the older generations are not online with their telepathy. And so it's like, how come they're not getting what I'm saying? Because you may communicate with words, but there's a whole download that comes with the words that comes through telepathy. And so they were like, you've got to get this concept. You've got to understand that because you can do it that way doesn't mean anybody else can do it that way. And that, yeah, I have a lot of students in their 80s, and I'm telling you, they're coming online in ways they never imagined that they could, but they will probably never have that full capacity that your generation has. The crown chakra, I noticed, and then psychic ability. So I'm going to talk about this more, and psychic abilities, intuitive abilities are online as well. And so it's like this frustration of like, how come you don't get that? How come you can't see that? And it's like, what you all don't get is that you came on, we'll call it camera ready, like you came on ready to move the world, ready to participate. And so there was a little story I remember with my son who was, I think he was in 10th grade and high school. And the teacher had written the assignment on the board, and my son went up to the teacher and said, could you read that to me? Because if I try to read it I have dyslexia, and it will, I won't translate it properly in my brain. But if you auditorially read it to me, then I'll be able to get the assignment. And the teacher said, are you telling me you're not going to do the assignment? He's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it gets cross wires. And he goes, so you're not doing the assignment. If you're not going to do the assignment, leave the class, And so I remember my son came home and he was like, why was he so mean like that? And I said, because your teacher in their 40s, now this was, we'll say 20 years ago, they're working with this much of a platform. My son is working with this much of a platform, like 3 feet across, like of tons of material to work with. His teacher is not. And so isn't that frustrating when you are of this Generation Z to have so many people in charge of your life and making decisions for you when they are working off this much material, that their operating system is so much smaller than your operating system. So then I was really curious, because then the frontal lobe came up. Is it okay if I keep going?
Go all in. We're here.
So for those in Generation Z, the frontal lobe development affects the energetic frequency capacity during rapid awakening. So you're already built for rapid awakening, but the frontal lobe acts as a frequency modulator to the entire human energy system. I'm 66. Of our generation, it's a more archaic system. Like, we're working through it, but we may not be able to rapidly kind of accelerate the way that your generation can. And your frontal lobe filters sensory intuitive data and decides what needs attention and what needs to be integrated, both in the inner and outer world at the same exact time. But here's the issue with when you are in your late teens, early 20s, your frontal lobe is still developing. So you don't really have a filter or an off switch. So you've got all this spiritual download that's happening, and the neural circuits and the regulation and discernment circuits are still under construction. And so for those in that generation, what they were telling me is you can feel really overloaded and may want to kind of disassociate, through gaming or drugging or, rave dancing. I don't know what you like to do. I'm kind of making things up, but
Ecstatic dancing.
yeah, ecstatic dancing. Well, I think that would help you a lot. And so physically, your nervous system in that generation is still refining how to balance the sympathetic arousal with the parasympathetic calm rest mode. So, the auric field is very porous. It's like a data bank. It's like the motherboard, your auric field. Your crown chakra and third eye chakras are accelerating and they're widening and they're opening. And there's an influx of very high frequency data, light codes coming in. For some of us, it's got to travel through a denser energy field. So again, it's like we're not trying not to get it. It just has to go through a different level of maze, different filters. And so in the energetic, the light frequencies stimulate the vagus nerve, the pineal gland, and the frontal lobe in your generation at the same time. So it's just like full on download, but you don't have the myelin sheath isn't fully developed then. So are you familiar with what a myelin sheath is?
It has to do with the neurons, maybe?
Yeah. So you know how if you see an electrical wire and it'll have that little plastic coating around it, like yellow, red, blue, green. Well, your myelin, your nerves, have a sheath around them so that you can conduct electricity and light flow in a more streamlined, efficient way. And in that age group, you haven't fully developed the sheath yet. So again, it can feel very overwhelming for the system.
The voltage that's coming through.
So the synaptic pruning process isn't complete, so the nervous system can conduct energy faster but less efficiently. And so this is where the older generations are your friend, because they do have the regulatory process. They do know how to kind of focus thoughts in an efficient way. And so sometimes if you don't know, the song, is it Willie Nelson? No, who sang that? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away.
I haven't heard of it.
It's an old country song. Okay.
If you know in the comments, let us know.
Yeah,
let us know.
So you may be like so quick, and then I might come along and say, Emilio, let me, you might want to walk away from this one for a couple of weeks anyway. Like that wisdom comes in from them having effective myelin sheaths. So from a frequency lens, this means that your generation can download higher frequencies but struggle to translate them smoothly into physical experiences. So the result can be emotional volatility, hypersensitivity, and that you're wired but tired. Have you ever felt that, where it's just like, I am wide awake, but I just need to go to sleep?
Yes.
So, remembering, I'll just kind of bringing it home, remembering adults you chose to incarnate during this accelerated planetary frequency shift. The nervous system, this generation's nervous system is built for high voltage. It's built for high voltage. But you're still recalibrating your human circuits. You're learning how to take that high voltage and manage it in the body. Your frontal lobe's gradual maturing mirrors the soul's journey from reaction to response, from absorption to creation. Literally what you're learning how to run divine current through the human circuitry. And so this is what everybody's doing when they're building a light body. And so for your generation, that's going to come pretty easy for you. And then our other generations will need that patience. I think that's the biggest thing, to have patience with the other generations, that they're just not built this way. Like Lady Gaga says, I was born this way. Well, you were born with a database to draw from that's enormous. I might have been given a little box of data, but I've worked for 30 years to build that box, but not everybody has. So I have frequency envy of your generation.
Frequency envy is a new trend on the rise, but it's so beautiful as well, because it's about helping each other. It's about working together, and we wouldn't have chosen to be part of a certain generation from, like, if it wasn't for a higher purpose from a soul level.
Right.
So I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through. It also might help us, maybe those of us that aren't part of the younger generation, to understand the generations better.
Yes.
And that's what I think what it's all about, is just understanding, because with understanding comes more levels of love and non-judgment and all the other beautiful things that unravel.
Keep things
after
in the
that.
quantum flow. Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't try to put anybody in a box. Yeah.
Nancy, we end every show with a segment called the Final Trio, which are some questions that we like to ask at the end. But before that, I would love to give you the space to let us know where people can find you, what you have going on in your world right now, and anything else that you'd like to share with us around your offering to humanity.
Oh, thank you. My website is intuitivemind.org, not .com. And that's the same improved website that I've had for 25 years now, believe it or not. I do have a YouTube channel, and if you just look for it, Nancy Rebecca, you'll be able to find my YouTube channel that way. I go live every Thursday. I do love to teach people about the human energy field, so you will see that element in everything I do. I have like 900 videos, and they're all teaching about different things. And I'm teaching a free mini workshop. I call it kind of this breakthrough, but it's really about learning to communicate with your higher self, building your own spiritual team. It is a free workshop. And so if you go to intuitivemind.org, you can click that button to register. It starts October 22nd. And I do teach psychic development. and all of them are a year, Emilio. I'm not into weekend workshops. I'm into making it a lifelong practice. So our foundational is a year long, and then our professional psychic development's a year long, and then our advanced development is a year long. And we do travel to different, either in the underworld or the upper world in our astral bodies. So there's just this wide variety. But the biggest thing, my message is if you can't ride that wave, like if your body's feeling anxious, your body's depressed, you're stressed, you're confused, it's just life is hard. Well, it's like, let's get you online there first. Let's get you grounded, and let's find ways to just help you to settle into your body first. And then there's lots of things that come after. So that's the one thing that you will know about me as a nurse. The body's super important. And it's important to the spirit world too. They're always telling us that. So I have lots of things going on. So I appreciate you give me the time to share that.
Of course, and just shouting out the dedication that you have for helping people and assisting us in this evolution. For this final trio, we personalize the first two questions to the guest, and at the end, I'll ask you a question that we ask at the end of every single show. The first one I have for you is, after decades of watching light move through the human body, what has it taught you about being alive?
That we are much more brilliant than we can possibly begin to imagine. That everyone has a light, a blinding light that is so brilliant, that's just waiting to be acknowledged and to be able to participate in life with you. Yeah. And anybody that would come in to my office, they could come in, just really having a tough time in life, and just to move a little bit of energy and have them walk, shoulders back and tall and full of hope again. Yeah. I've never met one person in over 30,000 readings and all my students that I didn't look at them and they've just got this brilliant light that they don't even know exists.
It's a beautiful way to see other people. You've said that the blue light dissolves illusion. What illusion do you feel that humanity is most ready to dissolve right now?
Well, that question I'm not quite sure of. Is like, are they most ready to dissolve? I would say unworthiness. That people are really ready to let go of those feelings of unworthiness and not having a purpose, not seeing the significance of who they are. That illusion is dissolving, and our minds can still want to, is programmed to think that we're not worthy. And that's the biggest thing people are ready to let go of.
When you remember you're worthy of all things and everything, then what you can create in your reality becomes limitless, essentially. And that sounds beautiful on paper and poetic, but another thing is to be ready to dissolve any parts of our lives where we don't feel worthy, which is the work of all of us, including myself.
And we all, no matter how long I've been doing this, I still have my moments, and that's why gotta find the Post-it note. Keep your eye on the prize. Yeah.
Eye on the prize. This last question we ask is called the time capsule question. And it requires us to travel out a little bit out into the future, around 15 to 20 years. And the reason I chose out those time frames is because I believe that's going to be a time in history when the young generations of today, the ones that we talked about earlier, are going to be stepping into more leadership positions around the world, and a new style of leadership. And just like any great leader that we've had in the past, historically, they've had great mentors. They've had great access to wisdom, resources, knowledge, tools. And you had the opportunity to leave behind a piece of your legacy to them inside of a time capsule. And they would open this time capsule when they're ready to step into those positions of leadership. And the question is, what would you include or put inside of this time capsule? It could be something non-physical. It could be something material, physical as well. Something that would really mark what you want to leave behind to the future generations. What would that be?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was actually thinking about this the other day, but it was what I was thinking, if I was on my deathbed, because I was a hospice nurse, for 8 years. And it's like, what would I want to tell my grandkids or great grandkids? It's like, don't waste time pondering things and thinking about things. Like the moment it intuitively comes, immediately take action. And that's what I would, that's the message. It's like, just don't sit and ponder a long time. I call it don't navel gaze, just get that intuitive hit, feel it in your bones, take action as fast as you can, and then move to the next one, because your life is just so, your spirit, your soul gives you so much energy for that next step. And then you do that step, and then you have so much more light. And it's like when I just think back on all the time that I spent agonizing over things, life decisions, if they're right or wrong. So that's what I would, yeah.
I want to finish with a quote of yours that I came across that says, "Where we walk and take action, the light is there to meet us. Where we don't walk, the light is not there to meet us." So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you for inspiring us to meet the light and to remember the light within us. It's been a huge pleasure and honor to connect with you, Nancy, and I look forward to doing this many, many more years down the line.
Wonderful,
so thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you're just doing really beautiful work. And there is this, on YouTube, there is this uprising of just this incredible community of people. And I'm excited about the youth that are coming up, and how they're going to lead the world. It's going to be clean and clear. And clear. Yeah.
I'm excited too. Awesome. Very optimistic. So thank you, and until next time.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. You have a beautiful community.
Love.